What did you see before Sweat was captured? Because something made you realize something was up, right?
Well, we had some people helping as far as we couldn't arrest the guy,
Right.
but we were passing on information that we were getting to certain authorities. You could see the drone right there. We had the drone, which is a cheap man's helicopter, where we could focus right in on a worm on the ground. So we were covering, miles and miles. We had my brother, Native American, was up there. The Flint people, the Mohawks were tracking. We had some college kids that were. There's some more right there as we're going back into the woods, people waiting. We had guys that were knowing exactly the territory, which way they were following, that the sun was guiding them. They were staying close to the highway. Every single thing they told us was exactly right.
You interviewed the ambulance driver who took Sweat, right, to the
Correct.
hospital. What did the ambulance driver tell you?
He said that he was awake, he was coherent, he was hungry, and he was thirsty. But other than that, he was fine.
Yeah. How did you, and he didn't talk about the injuries, right? Because.
Well, he was like, we can't say exactly, but he was shot twice in the back. So that, to me, a service revolver that Mr. Cook had was, a pretty big bullet. So to take 2 shells, pretty healthy big guy. He's, pretty strong guy.
But Matt was shot in the head.
Allegedly 3 times in the head, 15 times, I guess, through the whole body, 3 times in the head.
Yeah.
But when you say, well, you're there with all these cops, there's 1,000, I mean, the ground was shaking. The ground was literally shaking. 1,000 cops, and cops are the most macho job in America. These guys are relentless hunters. And you tell a guy like that, freeze, drop your weapon, he starts laughing and won't drop it. That was it.
What did you learn about the 3 weeks that how they survived out there for 3 weeks?
Well, they were not survivalists, but they sure survived.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
did.
obviously, unless there's people, I don't think, delivering them pizza, you know what I mean? I think they lived off the land, and it was worse to be in prison than it was to be out there. There were some people thinking they were going to turn themselves in. I really didn't think that. I thought this would exactly what had happened. You and I discussed the tattoo from Mexico. They were headed there. Then you and I discussed if they couldn't get to Mexico, they'd go to Canada. So just by, armchair quarterbacking, you and I were pretty close to all of our predictions.
Yeah. When you said your Native American brothers and sisters, you mean your friends? They were there helping you out in the search, correct?
Correct.
Right, because they know that territory.
Well, they know that land. That's their land, and they were like, they knew that is not there before. Now it's there. They could see that.
You know what's surprising to me? If these old home remedies or I forget what you call them, mothers, whatever.
Right.
Black pepper.
Right.
Wives' tales is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Black pepper really can throw the dogs off. They said that's how they threw the search dogs off.
Yes.
Is that's possible?
Well, yes, absolutely. There's an old movie with I forget the guy's name right now, but I think it was called Papillon or something like that, where he escaped. Okay, Bull Durham bags back then were given in prison, which looks like a little gunny sack about this big. So they would pour the pepper in the sack and tie it to their ankles. Number one, the dogs lose scent if it's wet. So every day it was raining, so they'd get the scent and lose it. Number two, if there were pepper, as they showed they're with, or they had to turn around and sprinkle pepper on their track, as soon as the dog smells that, of course, he'd start sneezing. Yeah. So they were out running dogs, 1,400 cops from all over the country. They, not to give them any credit, a tremendous escape to get out without a plan to go from the manhole out. Yeah. That was their mistake. Shooting at the car, he made another mistake. Leaving DNA made him another mistake. But it took a lot of, usually I've said this before, but I'll say it with you, other states, when someone runs and jumps, they look around 5-mile area, then they stop and hope the guy gets pulled over. You don't break out of New York prisons because they're going to get you.
They're going to get you.